phase. And we're going to see if anyone's legend does opt into a play like that, or if they just want to go back to, you know, stock and standard pick like a Jinx.
How did I get so lucky? My first game back, and I get a Zeri. Oh, man, I'm so excited. And it's LPL Zeri. We do get the tried and true Jinx, lock-in, and Lee Sin for anyone's legend.
Yep, anyone's legend staying to the meta for the side of Ultra Prime. We do still have the Jarvan open, which is something that we've hit on that Hacker has liked to go to quite frequently. You have the Jinx on the opposite side with her low mobility, so you will be able to punish her quite well. And Cryin going back to the Ryze. Hasn't pulled it out this split, but it did feel like back on RNG when Cryin's champion pool was fairly and very heavily criticized, this was one of the champions he was going to bring out and pilot quite well.
I have been falling. I'm always more of a proactive style jungle lover, right? But I have been absolutely loving how much of an enabler Jarvan can be right now in the competitive scene. It is so incredible. So I'm loving what I'm seeing for Ultra Prime so far, but then you see that Akali locked in from AL, and you know things are about to heat up, Lyric.
And this is the champion I think of when I think of Forge right now. Forge has always been a player who has preferred things like the Akali, the Sylas, and the Irelia. He did bring this out in a game he played earlier this split in a win, and I think it's something he's just going to feel extremely comfortable on, as it's the second most played champion in his career, has a 66% win rate on it.
Not too bad, I would say. Gragas the ban away by anyone's legend in the second phase there on the red side. Leona was the choice from Ultra Prime as their first ban in the second phase, and this definitely leads us towards that bottom lane pull and trying to dwindle down a little bit of that. But it is the Kennen focus from anyone's legend. Want to stop some of that team fight setup and, you know, the electrical synergy maybe a little bit.
I feel like there's very clear ideas coming up from both teams, right? Because anyone's legend banning away these more team fight oriented tops. You can see from their Akali, it is going to be more about side laning or more about splitting up the enemy team, searching for flanks. And for Ultra Prime, taking away the Leona specifically, being like, hey, we want to take away some of this lockdown that stops our Zeri, because that really is the key to stopping her, right? Hard CC, locking her down, making sure her mobility doesn't bring her off the ground. So we still do have things like Nautilus left open. Point and click ultimate, I feel like, will be so useful going against the opposite side, and even a lot of low range damage, right? Zeri only 500 range, one of the lowest 80 carries. Ryze as well, not having the highest range. So I think anyone's legend have a lot of potential to punish, but Mazel, they don't do it.
They don't at all. I was about to say, they do not have CC right now. And you're definitely going to need something to shore up the defenses here for anyone's legend going against that Zeri, because that team fight comp is looking spicy. Now they're going to be able to lock in their engage as well, get that front line solidified to have the peel for the Zeri as Nautilus locked in for Ultra Prime.
And now for Ultra Prime, they do have to lock in something for ZS to go up against the Jayce. Irelia would be a really nice throwback to a strong matchup if you do want to look for those all-ins. You even have the side lane coming out from Ryze. You can also always go towards the tank. Right now, flashing the Wukong, but even something like Thorn, right? You're going to lose, but you're going to be able to do the job well. And we do get to see the Wukong at level 6, man. ZDZ's life is going to be so hard.
It is feeling like Christmas over here. We get all the spicy picks. We got the fun coming in, and Ultra Prime's composition is looking really scary right now against anyone's legend. But this is what we needed from them. We need to find out how they're going to solidify their front line, what they're going to have to try to lock down some of these carry members from Ultra Prime, and it's the Braum that they choose.
So anyone's legend decided to pivot in a completely different way. This is showing they are very much committing to the 1-3-1 that they're going to set up. They don't need an opportunity to turn and set up fights like a Nautilus or to set up for those flanks, right? You have the disengage in mid lane with your Braum. You have your two side laners out, trying to pull Ultra Prime apart. So for anyone's legend, we're going to see if this is able to work up against the Zeri. How much Forge and ZDZ can get done in laning phase feels like it will be absolutely crucial for the side of anyone's legend. And for Ultra Prime, I feel like you have a lot of setup early. Yeah. So even if you do have these champions that need to get ahead on the other side, you have Wukong Jarvan, you have Ryze Jarvan coming in. It's just so easy to set up with these ganks with the amount of CC you have in your solo lanes.
It's incredible, the difference in the amount of CC, right? And I think that's a really interesting question, especially when you go for those team fight setups, the objective setups, the play calling for Ultra Prime just seems like they're going to be able to do a little bit more with that. But that's where you have to look at anyone's legend and the composition they've aligned for themselves. We said a little bit earlier that, you know, they've been drafting these split push style compositions, these side lane compositions, but they haven't been able to play towards them. They haven't found success in playing towards them, but yet they deal another hand in this style of play, and we got to see if they can execute it on it.
I feel like anyone's legend have been a team that just feels so pressured by dragons being started. They're like, hey, we don't care about side lanes. We need to get to this dragon fight now. They need to shore up that weakness.
Absolutely. As you see the beautiful art on the screen, the game is getting loaded up. And I'm so excited to kick off this super weekend because we are getting onto the Rift now. Ultra Prime looking to take on anyone's legend here in our first best of 3 of this week 4 super weekend. And it's about to kick off now. The action continues, the action starts, and who will come out on top in our first game?
And, I mean, eyes are just on the Zeri pick, right? Getting to see this once again. It hasn't found a ton of success globally so far. We talked about some of its weaknesses. It is quite easy to shut down in the laning phase. You have very low range. Your auto attacks don't do much damage unless you are able to charge them up first, you know, moving around, hitting people with your Q. And it is much more about the late game, the mobility that you bring, whether it's with your E, whether it's with the movement speed that you'll get from your ultimate. So for Elk, we're going to see if he can be a team-fighting monster, and if Ultra Prime can battle back against some of their instincts, Mazel. Can they go against just looking to mindlessly engage like they've done every game?
Yep, and you got to keep our eyes out on that as we are getting to the start of things here. It's like same side starts for both jungles, and we'll get that pathing towards the top side potentially. But this is where you got to look for those unique paths, especially Xiaohao on the Lee Sin.
Yeah, Xiaohao is going to be starting up down towards that bottom side. He does not have much setup coming in, right?
He does not.
You have no CC in either of your solo lanes, so it feels like it's going to be a lot about finding windows. If something like a Jayce is able to find early push and setting up on that bounce back, or even just looking to cover, right? Because you know, since Hacker has the Jarvan and he does have the setup in his lanes, he is going to be looking for some of this early playmaking.
Again, it's the enableization that Jarvan brings to the table, and why we've seen it just skyrocket, it feels like, in competitive play. And the way that it, as I said, kind of enables your solo lanes, your setup, your decision making, and with all that CC on the side of Ultra Prime, definitely something to watch out for. As QiuQiu and Betty going for a little bit of an early trade against the Zeri, trying to keep that aggression up in lane against this new champ.
And they're doing well, right? You have the range advantage coming in. Even Braum just does such a good job of nullifying anything Nautilus wants to go for. You look for a hook in, you tag in with your passive. It's very easy for Betty to find the follow-up CC coming through. And for anyone wondering, this is 12.2, so in terms of itemization, it is going to be the same stuff we haven't seen. This is why also no Zeri nerfs coming out just yet.
And again, more trading there. I want to point out really quick, Cryin got a nice little cheeky ward against Xiaohao on his Raptors, seeing that pathing come through. So got a little vision on AL's jungle pathing there, and honestly leaves it up to Hacker to kind of utilize that information going forward.
And Hacker, seeing the fact that his top laner is getting pushed in so heavily, is going to make his way down towards that bottom side scuttle. With the pressure that Cryin is putting up in mid lane, should be able to secure this one quite easily. And yeah, very standard early games coming out so far. Ultra Prime, I think, respecting the fact that Xiaohao was up towards that top side, so it didn't matter that ZDZ was overextended so far. Not having confidence in taking that early game 2v2.
That is not having too much fun there. I do like the heads up pathing from Hacker though, like realizing the situation and saying, okay, we need to cut our losses. We need to try to get this side of the map going. And honestly, it works out, right? We were saying the main shtick here of this game, at least, is the bot lane focus. So eventually, both junglers are going to want to make their way there.
And for now, it feels interesting, right? Because both bot lanes are definitely set up to scale. We've already hit on how Zeri definitely much more of a mid-late game champion. Jinx, of course, on the opposite side has been for a very long time. And when you have a bot lane like Braum, it is just going to secure that both lanes are just going to be able to honestly get a bit of a free laning phase. Like, sure, Ultra Prime can look for these trades. They're continuously going to be kited out by the side of anyone's legend.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of trades back and forth early on for this bot lane. Nothing too crazy. No outside influence just yet, as well as they're walk up as the backs do get completed. Was a little bit close there, Lyric.
They still get it off, and we are going to see Elk be able to come back to lane with Sheen. So some of those early Spell Blade procs to come out. Mazel gets some more damage down in that 2v2. And, you know, kind of looking ahead, I think for the side of Anyone's Legend, it is a little bit more, they need to wait for some of these opportunities, right? Let Forge have the ability to hit level 6. Once Xiaohao gets that kick online, he can look for some more opportunities. Ward hop behind Cryin in mid lane, try and set up a play for his side. But for Ultra Prime, still keeping our eye on Hacker, I think you're at a point with ZS soon about to hit 6 that you can start to look towards that top side.
And I definitely want to see if Cryin starts activating those big realm warps to the side lanes and see how they utilize that. But again, I want to go back to what we set up in the draft, right? Ultra Prime are fine getting ready for the objectives, getting ready for the team fights, because that's where they succeed. And it's more up to Anyone's Legend, trying to pull apart, trying to get these side lanes working for themselves.
Lucky for them, they have been able to keep steady pressure in top. Looks like ZDZ is about a wave ahead.
Sneaky, sneaky.
But yep, turning our attention down towards bottom lane. I mean, Mazel, this is weird. I thought coming into this series, with seeing how Anyone's Legend Ultra Prime have played, that bot lane would be an absolute bloodbath. We've hit on Ultra Prime for Anyone's Legend as well. QiuQiu has, I think, always been a more aggressive player, willing to go for those Hail Mary engages. But on the Braum, it's not possible. But hey, Hacker finally going to look for something. Cryin trying to set it up, but Forge showing too much respect.
Yeah, nothing for Hacker to really do there except for overextending maybe. They want to look towards this top side, though, and I think that's a perfect play if they can. But guess who smells it all already? ZDZ playing it safe, playing it calm, playing it cool.
And I think this also goes back to setting up what we're going to see later on in terms of the difference in style, right? The difference between the side lanes, the difference between the 5v5 is that if Ultra Prime are able to just hover Hacker over towards mid, get pressure up towards top, I mean, you're trying to find an advantage on your Jayce, on your Akali, but for Ultra Prime, they're not feeling a ton of time crunch to do it when they already have pressure coming out from some of these lanes, like mid.
Yeah, and that's what you get with the style of draft you've gotten yourself here with Ultra Prime. Meanwhile, check back into this bottom lane. QiuQiu and Betty have reestablished some pushing pressure down there, but it's not going to mean too much at the moment since Xiaohao is towards this top side of the map. But it does mean the Hacker potentially looks for something finally down towards this bot lane. Ooh, they just go in, though. QiuQiu in some trouble. There's the traps, though, onto ShiauC. And we're getting pretty heated in this Flash Wolves bot lane as Hacker finally making his way. But will be spotted out. And the Flash actually burned by Betty because of the dredge line of ShiauC.
Yeah, ShiauC trying to set it up. Elk also doing a nice job there, was charging up his passive to be able to get that full damage auto coming through onto Betty. But Betty, you know, showing some restraint, knowing he would, you know, be in a bit of trouble, not knowing where the enemy jungle was eventually spotted out on a ward, is going to back off. On the opposite side of the map, though, is where Anyone's Legend have been putting more of their focus into. We're going to see if ZDZ can try and zone ZS off of some of these minions. Ultra Prime look like, in response, sending ShiauC up towards the top lane, but ZDZ backing off. You know, I feel like we're seeing a lot more respect come out from roams, from junglers, than we typically would see, especially in a 10th versus 15th place matchup. So props to, you know, Ultra Prime and Anyone's Legend.
Yeah, playing it calm, cool, and collected so far, at least. I'm sure, you know, this is the LPL. Things are going to explode at some point, but until then, we're going to enjoy our tea and watch the gameplay unfold here as the Rift Herald being picked up by Ultra Prime.
And for Anyone's Legend not in a position where they can punish, they did keep Betty down the bottom lane, so should be able to get something done in terms of plates coming out, because for the side of Ultra Prime, they did rotate their bot up towards mid, and Anyone's Legend now able to just cut off that entry down into bottom side. So at least Anyone's Legend are cross-mapping a bit. They are finding some answers. Now we're going to be looking at what Ultra Prime are able to do with the Rift Herald, where they're able to start opening up the map, right? Cryin has consistently pushed in mid, so they should be able to move him up towards one side. We have seen for Ultra Prime so far, it has been a bit more top lane focus.
It has. ShiauC and Elk get back to bot lane as Betty. They haven't taken a couple tower plates there. Decent amount of gold in his pocket. Pretty even on that home front from both sides on the bot side. But looks like we might get some jungle skirmish going on towards this top side. Hacker actually looking pretty aggressive. Does have the Rift Herald available. Looking for the next spot where Hacker wants to utilize that.
And this is why I think Ultra Prime are hovering up towards this top side, seeing if they can find an opportunity with ZS coming back to lane. Nothing going to be presented to them. They also know Xiaohao is up here because he was spotted just like 30 seconds ago. And now Xiaohao going to see if in response he can find this. Because Hacker spent so much time on the map picking up the Rift Herald, he knows that Hacker should be looking for a base.
Coming into the lane here, but ZS playing pretty reserved. See if Xiaohao, or how long Xiaohao decides to stick around. Looks like it's not going to be for too long. Turning around for the Krugs. Want to check back into the map state as JoJo was on a roam timer, but the support roams have not really found anything thus far.
No, ShiauC hasn't moved too much from laning phase, right? We did see him trying to actively go for these 2v2s earlier on. They weren't able to get anything set up, and Xiaochu did a nice job of dissuading those from coming through. Now Ultra Prime, knowing Dragon's up in 44 seconds, are getting some deep vision down into the enemy jungle. So for Ultra Prime, playing towards that teamfight win condition that we expected them to come in with. Now for anyone's Legend, I wonder how they're going to respond, right? We know Xiaohao's bot side camps up, so he's naturally going to pat down towards them. But you might miss an opportunity to look for a cross map if you're not comfortable fighting into the Ultra Prime composition.
So crazy to be, first game in of the night of the Super Weekend. We're 0-0 at 11 minutes in, but it is a real testament to that respect you were mentioning earlier from both these teams, honestly, going both ways.
You know, Mazel, LPL weekends are Mazel madness weekends. I don't feel like I'm seeing enough madness.
Not enough madness. You gotta talk to the... There you go.
Now.
There's the madness. JoJo flashes. They're trying to get the Winter's Bite connection as well as the concussive blows. The rocket is enough, and Betty is gonna help get that first kill. And no, it's turned around after it all. Sorry, it's not Betty. It's a turnaround, and gold going into the pocket of Ultra Prime, and Betty, you're unfortunately left out to dry. Hacker taking a couple tower shots there, has to back away, but there's the Ultra Shock laser, and Cryin coming in to alley-oop it.
Really nice coordination coming out from Ultra Prime in that play, especially on the back end to set up for that side to follow through. It's going to open up for more plate gold coming in for L. They're denying minions to the opposite side, and they're actually just going to drop the Rift Herald outright. So for Ultra Prime, going to get some gold in their pockets. This does set up a potential dragon window for anyone's Legends off of the resets that should come out from Ultra Prime.
Very nice way to start off as we're going to get a breakdown of the replay. This was all Chocho Chad moment there. And I thought that Betty was able to turn it around, but he wasn't able to.
No, I mean, we saw, right, Chocho committed for the play, but the other two members of Ultra Prime were zoning Betty off from being able to join. So they didn't have the same amount of damage that Ultra Prime were able to pull out with their three members, able to just cascade in on down on Chocho. And then here is where I thought everything would go terribly wrong, but Hacker, realizing the end flashes out, it leaves space for Cryin to go in and find the kill.
Not too bad. It will be second dragon of the game secured by anyone's Legend. So they're at least working on that front, trying to establish the dragon stacking as we get the Mountain Soul onto the Rift.
Mountain Soul going to come out pretty beneficial, I think, especially for the side of Ultra Prime, right? Having things like the Wukong, Nautilus, and Jarvan. ZS also benefiting from his Stone Skin passive as well. So a lot of resistances on the side of Ultra Prime. And heck, anyone's Legend, right? You do have a lot of burst damage coming out from both Akali and the Jayce. So those shields can mean a lot later on. But anyone's Legend setting themselves up nicely with their two Drake start.
A little bit of damage onto ShiauC. There's Elk getting a bit of a trade. They're actually trying to take this tower, but the wave clear from Betty too good. Jojo able to help him with that one. So trying to batten down a little bit after that early craziness. We were saying, oh, where's the madness? Where's the kills? Well, now we're 3-0 in favor of Ultra Prime, and it seems like they are trying to keep that pressure up as well.
And we're seeing the agency that comes from the comp that they drafted, right? Cryin able to keep up this prio and mid consistently hovering over. Hacker knows he has the freedom to just walk in the enemy jungle and see if they can set up these plays. And it's nice to see this coming out from Cryin, because this was his specialty on RNG, right? Push and move, interact with your side lanes. He's mostly been on Corki duty so far, but great to see him put on a pick that is able to interact more with his teammates.
Yeah, and finding that synergy, finding that cohesion, at least in the team comp, is so important. And I think that's where we're seeing at least a big difference in this first game, right, between Ultra Prime and anyone's Legend, where that cohesion, that togetherness definitely feels like it's up and running for Ultra Prime, where you see the bright moments, you see some of the plays, Chocho flashing forward. They know that they have a comp where if they can catch somebody out, they can kill them, but it has to start cohesing a little bit more.
For anyone's legend, at least they are trying to set up on the top side of the map. They did have resets come out first from their bottom side, so they are able to get some vision down. Sadly, though, Ultra Prime having some pretty good control wards, not giving anyone's legend full information. Forge does have TP, so anyone's legend at least need to be conscious of that. They do have pretty good mobility. Of the 80 carry.
Nice flash over the wall. They're going for everything. ZDZ's already dead. Chocho to follow him next, and they want more, but it's a little bit too overzealous. Huge pickups again by Ultra Prime as they go up to 5-0, and now look back towards this Rift Herald number 2.
And it just comes back to the fact of, okay, anyone's legend get control first, but realistically, what threat do they have to stop Ultra Prime from just walking in, face checking with their tanks, and setting up with all their CC? Because anyone's legend not having much lockdown, not having a real good way of starting up these skirmishes, you're relying on a mistake coming out from Ultra Prime and then being able to pick them off.
And I want to say, I was pretty happy, right? You were getting first mythic item completions across the board for anyone's legend, but they're never set up in a position to utilize those, and it was just quick decision-making from Ultra Prime, as we see in this replay. Look at ShiauC.
Yeah, ShiauC gets the ward down, spots him out, goes in for the flash, instantly combo with the knock up from J4. And we head on for anyone's legend. What can they do? They have no way of locking the opposition down, especially once Braum goes down. You have little to no front line, and not even having the damage necessary there, right? Forge was still pushing in the side lane and had to even TP in to even try and be part of the play.
Very difficult when you do not have CC, you don't have, and especially when you're down in gold and the enemy team is playing aggressive and you're still trying to find your graces, it's really hard to react to those moments. You see it's getting harder and harder as the time goes by, because Ultra Prime are doing pretty good in their decision making and their macro plays, at least thus far, right? It is coming up in about a minute, the third dragon of the game, and a potential soul point for anyone's legend. You see how important this is then. Pings aplenty, Lyric.
Yeah, for anyone's legend, they know like this is their win condition. For Ultra Prime, I don't think they should feel too pressured that they are down 2 Drakes, because they know they are heavily favored in these fights, especially with the advantages they've been able to scale up. Tiamat already coming out for Elk, even making his way towards the Runon's Hurricane with the Zeal already being picked up. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on Elk in this fight. It does feel like a lot of Ultra Prime success so far has come down to ShiauC and Hacker setting it up, though.
All I'm picturing right now is a 50-foot Betty fighting a creature from the Black Lagoon dressed as Hacker. We'll see if Rift Herald can do anything mid as Ultra Prime move in from that mid lane into the pit, where anyone's legend has already started up the dragon. The fight is sure to ensue quickly. The mid tower is going to go down to that Rift Herald, and Ultra Prime feel confident to move in as they got the flank from ZS. The Cyclone in, and now they're trying to pick apart the fight, but it's already Hacker who's out, and anyone's legend are now the ones moving forward. Flash forward, ZS goes in with the Cyclone. There you go, but no, it's Forge trying to get back in on the Akali. Look at the amount of AoE coming through, though. Unbreakable shield from Chocho doing some work. ZS going back in, but beautifully using that strike to come through. And nobody's touching the dragon at this point. We're just all over the place. And Elk is doing Zeri things as we speak about it. ShiauC gets baited by Elk, and now Elk might die too. Anyone's legend trying to chase him down. You're getting TPs from Ultra Prime. This is continuing. This is exactly the LPL I've always dreamed of. ZS going in to clean him house. Elk on the side. There you go, but he can't hit it yet again. ZS chasing down Betty, who is left out to dry. And Ultra Prime raised their score streak to 8-2.
And everything looked so rough for them going in. They are going to be able to take the fight, though, turn this into a dragon, start making their way up towards these ones themselves. It is a bit sad we're not at the 20-minute yet mark, Mazel, because then we could have maybe seen them getting vision up towards topside and playing towards that. Let's go straight.
How is this the beginning of the fight, Lyric? This is the beginning. It feels like it was like 10 minutes after this.
And we see a lot of members of Ultra Prime actually zoned off by the ult brought out by Chocho. They try and look for the re-engage, aren't able to find it just yet. Forge is able to force out a flash from Cryin, but this just opens up for Elk to pop off on Zeri, right? Already popped the ultimate. It does have the full charges coming out from his Q, 850 range on that ability, so you're just keeping them at arm's length consistently, and it buys enough time for the other members of Ultra Prime to be able to get back into this fight with TPs coming out from both soul laners. And sadly for anyone's Legend, their comp's already lost all of its steam from the initial engage.
Yeah, they stuck around just a little bit too long. That double TP call from Ultra Prime. Again, the communication just seems to be running so smoothly for this team and is representative in their 8,000 gold lead right now, sub 20 minutes. As you see the purple worm coming onto the rift, Ultra Prime absolutely in the driver's seat here.
And they're going to do a good job of transitioning their lead into vision control topside, already pushing out waves in mid, getting some of this down.
Wait,
ZS
did they get the
quite
tower?
Safely, as we saw.
No. Oh, I didn't even see that. The mid tier 2 felt of minions.
More gold in their pockets. Mazel, Ultra Prime, just going through the steps. For the now, ZS having no TP, so going to be quite rough compared to anyone's Legend who do have both their soul lane TPs up. So you're not necessarily going to be looking for any cheeky plays on top side in terms of Baron baits or things like this. I think Ultra Prime actually have to be very respectful of the fact that anyone's Legend can find a numbers advantage play with Forge being able to join the fight.
The thing that worries me, though, is we're getting to a point where anyone's Legend are forced to play the game that Ultra Prime wants to play, as we do see the Ultra Shock Laser land, not doing a lot of damage, but it's mostly the tower they want to go for. Nope! Hacker wanted to go for the 3-man Cataclysm just to say he could do it.
If it does go for it, sets it up. I think the other members of Ultra Prime not feeling comfortable and following through. Maybe ShiauC been a bit closer, right, than you're having the 4v3 or potential 4v4 if Forge does opt into joining in. But Ultra Prime just going by the book so far. No dragon for another few minutes, so I think for Ultra Prime, you're rinsing and repeating the map setup, right? Heading back over through mid, maybe getting some vision down towards that bottom half of the map, forcing your way into the enemy jungle, and seeing if you can find a pick with this Jarvan Nautilus combo.
It's getting worrisome, though, right? We're cresting just about 3 items, right? We're still working on those final components, but 3 items for Ultra Prime's carries, and that's where things start getting too far out in front of you for anyone's Legend to really have anything to say. But that's where I want to check in on this composition style for anyone's Legend, right? We said they have been drafting for these side lanes, haven't been able to play to them as much as we would like to see. But here, it gets harder and harder to play like that because Ultra Prime are able to force you into their play style. So I guess the biggest question is, how do you turn this around in this style of composition against a very stacked team fight setup from Ultra Prime?
For the side of AL, I think it's going to come looking to set up maybe a double side lane play with your soul laners, right? Trying to bring Forge and ZDZ together towards that bot side, finding a pick onto Cryin, and then setting up, hey, we have 5v4 on the map. Let's just instantly try and find a play onto Baron, force them into us, and then take the 5v4 from there. So, going to be looking at ZDZ and Forge being able to muster up that teamwork.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a play like that, you've got to set it up here soon because you know that Ultra Prime are putting themselves right in front of that Dragon Pit when they need to be there. There's the Realmore right in front of anyone's Legend, and they're just going to take him out. The Ultra Shock Laser gets out the kill, and that's a quick twofer for Ultra Prime as they move on to the inhib tower.
And Ultra Prime just going to be able to push this one through. No threat coming from the enemy side. You have a bit of a wave. I wonder if they're going to back off and look for the Baron. I think that would be the safest play here. Go for the Baron, get the empowered recalls, come back onto the map, and you should even have time to look for a contest onto the Drake if you choose.
And that's what's so
no,
detrimental.
No confidence, Mazel.
No
flips.
Yeah, no flips. I can see that. But this is what I'm talking about. Like, we were starting to say, okay, AL, got to get in here. We got to find some win condition. Okay, you got to do this. Catch him out in the side lane. Let's get it set up before the dragon. Nope. Ultra Prime, like, let's pull the trigger. We got Realm Warp. Lego, baby.
Yeah, it's been beautiful to see from Cryin, right? He's put so much pressure onto the side of anyone's Legend. They instantly get on top of him. You see the W to follow through with Elk to finish off that kill. But I gotta say, no early bot lane aggression from Ultra Prime. Teams, Mazel, not flipping Baron?
What is this?
Is this our LPL?
Double, or at least ATP out onto the map for Cryin towards the top side to stop some aggression from CDZ. But the dragon started up by Elk himself towards the bot side, and that's going to be a free objective picked up for Ultra Prime.
Yeah, Ultra Prime, you know, they're able to get that one scot-free for the side of anyone's Legend. They know they have to opt into, okay, taking our jungle camps, collecting waves that we can, just trying to get more gold onto our current carries right now. pretty much everyone across the board sitting strong at 2 items on the side of anyone's legend. I guess, jungle and support a bit further down, but all the key carries are at least. The sad thing, though, is on the side of Ultra Prime, we're already starting to hit 3 item marks, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's terrifying. This tank Ryze, like, that's never where you want to be when you're behind against a tank Ryze who literally you cannot kill. And it's just terrifying.
I mean, you have tank Ryze going up against, again, a lot of burst damage coming out from both Jayce and Akali. Not to mention, you are stacking up the Mountain Souls.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Well, you're
I
doing
guess you've
both,
already
right?
stacked that, but
It's a double stack bargain, Mazel. You're stacking up the Fimbulwinter, you're stacking up the Drakes, and no one will be able to kill Cryin, especially when you're a champion like Ryze, right?
Yeah.
Who, to deal your damage, you need to be able to get in close range since you aren't a very long-range artillery piece.
And I will say, Cryin has been beyond impressive for this Ultra Prime roster. I mean, he is sitting at 34% of damage done for Ultra Prime in their game. And that in itself is incredible.
Whoa, Mazel. Cryin has definitely, I think, been one of the better performers in Ultra Prime. He has also played a ton of Corki.
Okay, you know what? I don't care about the analytical aspect. I see big number. I yell about big number. Okay.
Mazel Corki. We don't endorse Corki here. But hey, there is a Baron flip.
Yeah. Finally, you get your wish. Here comes the Realm Warp though, as nice traps laid down by Betty. Saves EDZ's life, but not for long, as ZS will come in there. Cyclone on the back line, Cataclysm over top, and they are just shredding Ultra Prime here. We do not see anything traded back just yet, but Forge is trying his darndest. Has to get the perfect execution out, and that is another quick twofer for Ultra Prime. Now 12-2, and they go back to the Baron.
Ultra Prime have been doing a nice job consistently pushing in mid, setting up the side lanes, whichever side they're playing towards. They had deep vision in that enemy jungle, and they're able to play for the turn. The Baron was never the goal in mind, and for that, they were rewarded. They found the kills, and now it sets them up with the Baron that we were hitting on before. So, for Ultra Prime, pretty smooth sailing so far.
Smooth sailing, 3 items completed for the carries, and they are able to dictate the map right now in totality, as we'll get a replay of that fight, the call from Ultra Prime.
I feel like a key thing, right, is they have the vision down. It sets up for the flank coming in. Cryin and ShiauC easily able to follow up the Cyclone with the Realm Warp, getting onto the back line of Xiaohao, and ShiauC with another amazing hook to go in. At this point, you're in too deep, right? Because Betty and ZDZ can't walk forward with ShiauC and Elk making their way around. And it just leads to the 2 kills for the sides of Ultra Prime.
ShiauC, we've been impressed by this guy, but these flash dredge lines are just on point every time. It is insanity. And it's so hard to play against. It's so oppressive. And that, I feel like, is the story of the game so far, is Ultra Prime's oppression against anyone's legend.
Yeah, it's been nice to see. And for Ultra Prime, they come in with a higher expectation, right? They have played better so far. They've looked pretty solid. And now we're going to see if they can keep this going. Now for Elk, having the Titanic Hydra picked up is super nice. There's no cooldown on it for you, like on Ravenous Hydra, to apply with your Q. So you're able to just consistently apply that cleave damage over and over again.
Here comes Xiaohao on the side. Kick into it under the tower, though. But there's the lightning crash. And the team from Ultra Prime moving forward with it. Realm Warp and Ultra Prime have dashed the hopes of anyone's legend in game number 1. Elk is even stunting on them over the walls. Forge wants to get away. He's like, please stop. I don't want this anymore. And Elk and the rest of Ultra Prime slowly but surely will push in the base with the Baroned up minions and make this first game short work. Not even going to go the distance with the Dragons, but they will make sure to hammer home the Nexus. One last kill potentially going over. Forge actually gets a 3rd kill for anyone's legend. Will it be a 4th? He does, but the game is over, and it did not matter. Ultra Prime come out on top.
And I really like what Ultra Prime have been doing, not only in terms of this season of LPL, but their approach to how they've been building their roster and going through the LPL so far. They joined in 2020, right? They had the squad. It had people like ShiauC, it had Cryin, it had all these players in there. Deciding they want to stick with these players after the rebrand from eStar, right?
Yeah.
And then bringing in new names, bringing in Hacker, bringing in ZS, and now coming into a new split, bringing Cryin back from those old E-Star days, bringing in a new carrying elk. It's been like a really nice journey of finding what pieces fits, keeping them as you kind of rebuild the rest of the house. And for Ultra Prime, it's worked.
Yeah, we got to find a cheesy sci-fi movie name for ShiauC, because that dude, he's a monster. On any of those engaged champions, it's incredible to see him. But coming into game number 1 of the series and being able to stunt on people like that on the Nautilus, very, very impressive stuff. And in totality, feels like the creature of the Black Lagoon got a little bit more of the upside here in game number 1. Maybe the 50-foot Betty will come back for a vengeance in game number 2. But it was honestly impressive stuff from Ultra Prime.
You know, we set out some things we wanted to see from the teams today, right? And for the side of Anyone's Legend, to give them their due credit, we said, hey, their laning phase in bot lane has not really been up to stuff. You know, get through laning phase. They picked Braum. They did it, Mazel. They hit a checklist, a checkpoint on the checklist. So it's not all bad for them. Even if holistically we did question, okay, we see how the comp works, but how does this comp find advantage on what Ultra Prime does? It did not. And I really just want to highlight Cryin. I'd be really surprised if he isn't the MVP, because, again, he was putting up so much pressure.
Yep.
Even when he wasn't roaming to sides, him hiding in Fog of War and River, just letting his presence be known and relieving some of the pressure that ZS was feeling early on, putting pressure on ZDZ to not just force his lane advantage as hard as he can get. Bravo, Cryin.
Yeah, and the entire team, right? And I think that's where you look at Anyone's Legend and you're like, okay, Elk on the Zeri, important, not as important as the team composition and finding CC and setup for your team. And so I do that is the question I want to ask, right? Is like going to the same, do we see the Zeri bit? Because it was potent. But the other thing is they can find answers if they just draft some CC. If they just have a more stable team composition.
You know, again, they'll have some answers. I still think Zeri incredibly strong. It'll probably get picked if it is open. But Mazel, you're making a great point that we saw Zeri go up against really no CC. Sure, the enemy team does have range, but you yourself do get more range later on, especially like utilizing that Q, 850 range coming out. And yeah, I'd like to see Anyone's Legend go with a different approach. They've just tried to force these side lane compositions over and over again, and then it never really pans out the way they think it will.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough there for sure, but still want to see that, right? Either go for that split lane side pushing style and find out how to execute on that, or go for the easy execution in a team fight
there
competition and find something.
There it is, Mazel.
Yeah, I mean, hey, QiuQiu, he's pretty darn good on those engagers. Just saying, if you find some of that, it was looking good on the Braum. There was a lot of potential